Gideon Voss wiped the sweat from his brow as sparks flew from the welding torch in his cramped scrapyard workshop. The night air was heavy, filled with the smell of hot metal and oil. He was alone, as usual, repairing a battered hoverbike for a client who never thanked him. He worked quickly, eyes scanning the parts scattered across the floor. Every sound was familiar, predictable, until a roar split the night sky, low and trembling, like the earth itself had groaned. Gideon froze, torch still in hand. The roar came again, louder this time, shaking the metal walls around him. A shadow moved in the alley behind his workshop, enormous, and it didn't belong to any vehicle or machine he had ever seen. His heart pounded. He had faced angry clients, malfunctioning engines, and stray hover drones, but this was something else entirely. The creature stepped into the dim light, and Gideon's breath caught. Scales glimmered faintly in the moonlight, shifting colors like molten metal. Its eyes were enormous, intelligent, and uncomfortably human. A deep hum radiated from it, vibrating through the ground beneath Gideon's boots. The dragon's wings folded tightly at its sides, but even folded, they spanned nearly the width of the alley. Smoke curled from its nostrils, smelling faintly sweet, like burning honey. "Leftovers," the dragon said, its voice low but unmistakable, as if the words traveled directly into Gideon's mind. "Give me leftovers." Gideon's jaw tightened. He'd heard stories of dragons in old hollow archives, tales whispered in dark corners of the city, but never believed a word. And yet here it was, alive, massive, asking for scraps. Instinct told him to run. Common sense screamed danger. But another part, the part that had repaired impossible engines and salvaged wrecks others called junk, urged him to act. He couldn't just ignore a creature that had come this close. He grabbed a handful of metal scraps from the floor and held them out cautiously. Here. Take these," he said, voice trembling. The dragon's head tilted as if curious. Its tongue flicked out, tasting the scraps without touching them. Then it stepped closer, claws clicking against the metal floor, stopping just short of his workshop door. Sparks flew from the torch in his hand, reflecting in the dragon's iridescent scales. Something about the way it paused made Gideon notice a faint glow in its chest, a pulsing light beneath the scales. His brow furrowed. That wasn't normal. Dragons weren't supposed to glow like circuitry. Something was wrong. He swallowed, forcing his hands steady. You don't just want scraps, do you?" he asked. The dragon made a low, rumbling sound, like a growl mixed with a hum. Gideon realized it was pointing, not with claws but nudging something on the ground with its snout. A pile of discarded tech, wires, and small gadgets. Curiosity overrode fear. Gideon crouched and lifted a flickering device from the pile. It was a control chip, cracked but still alive with energy. When he held it toward the dragon, its glowing chest pulsed brighter. Sparks from his torch danced across its scales as if the dragon were feeding on light itself. Okay, Gideon whispered. "I think I get it." He shoved the chip into a makeshift stabilizer he'd rigged from other scraps, wires dangling. The dragon hissed, then lunged forward, but not to attack. It gently nudged Gideon aside, tilting its head to inspect the device. Its eyes widened, and for a split second, it looked almost grateful. A strange warmth spread through Gideon's chest. This wasn't just a monster demanding scraps. It was a living, intelligent being hurt and in need. And he, a human mechanic, might be the only one who could help it. Suddenly, a shadow flickered across the alley behind the dragon. Gideon turned just in time to see another, smaller silhouette. A second dragon, its scales darker, eyes glinting with hunger or anger. It circled overhead, wings brushing the walls of nearby buildings. The first dragon growled sharply, a warning, but Gideon's eyes widened. There were more of them. Was the one in front of him alone? Or was this an ambush? He clenched his fists. His mind raced. He didn't have weapons, not real ones, only tools and scraps. But he did have skill, brains, and courage. And he had already made a choice, to act, not run. The glowing dragon stepped closer again, chest pulsing, eyes fixed on him. Gideon swallowed, torch in one hand, stabilizer in the other, and realized that this night was only beginning. One wrong move could burn him alive, or worse. But maybe, just maybe, he could turn this impossible encounter into something no human had ever done before. And then, from the shadows, a sharp, chilling screech echoed, different from the growl of the first dragon. The alley vibrated. The second dragon had landed, closer than he thought, its claws digging into metal, wings half open. Gideon froze. The scraps in his hands suddenly felt heavy. His heartbeat thundered. He realized this was no longer about leftovers. This was about survival, and about a choice that could change everything. Gideon's hands trembled as he backed toward the hidden compartment, keeping the glowing dragon between himself and the shadowed intruder. Sparks from his torch danced on the dragon's scales, making it shimmer like molten metal. The second dragon crouched low, wings twitching, tail lashing as if testing his courage. Every instinct screamed danger. Every part of him wanted to run. But Gideon couldn't. Not now. He slid open the hidden compartment, revealing a jumble of old tech. Broken drones, cracked power cells, discarded circuits. It wasn't much, but it was something. The glowing dragon nudged a device toward him with its snout, pulsing urgently. Gideon realized it wasn't asking for scraps anymore. It wanted help, real help. He grabbed a cracked energy module and examined it quickly. Sparks jumped from exposed wires and the module hummed faintly. Gideon understood immediately. If he connected it to the glowing dragon's chest, it could stabilize the strange energy he had glimpsed. But one wrong move and it could explode, or worse, injure the dragon further. "All right," he muttered, teeth clenched. "Here goes nothing." He attached the module with trembling hands, improvising with zip ties and strips of metal. The glowing dragon hissed, flaring wings, eyes widening as the module clicked into place. A pulse ran through its body, brighter than before, lighting the alley in sharp bursts of blue and gold. The second dragon froze, scanning the alley with curiosity and suspicion. Gideon's chest tightened. He had bought a moment, but he hadn't solved anything yet. The second dragon was circling closer, and the first dragon, still pulsing with energy, was tense, protective, but it didn't attack. That gave him an opening, however fragile. "Okay," Gideon whispered to himself, "think fast." He grabbed a piece of scrap metal and held it high, a makeshift shield. He tapped into every lesson he'd learned fixing hover bikes and fusion circuits. He knew how to improvise under pressure. Sparks flew from the torch as he struck a hanging metal panel, sending it clattering toward the approaching dragon. The sound echoed sharply, startling it. It hesitated. That hesitation was all Gideon needed. He stepped forward, voice steady but firm. "I'm not your enemy. I can help." The glowing dragon's eyes softened slightly, and it nudged his shoulder gently, almost urging him to trust his instincts. Gideon risked a step closer. The second dragon hesitated again, tail flicking nervously. Gideon noticed something unusual. The shadow dragon's eyes reflected the glow of the first dragon, as if it was drawn to that energy. A surge of adrenaline hit him. He realized the glowing dragon wasn't just weak, it was key to something larger. Its energy was unique, attracting other creatures, maybe even signaling something beyond the alley. Every move he made now would have consequences not just for him but for the mysterious creatures around him. He tore a wire from a broken drone and connected it to the stabilizer device on the glowing dragon. The pulse of light intensified, bathing the alley in flickering brilliance. The second dragon recoiled, letting out a low, questioning growl. The glowing dragon shivered, then stepped protectively in front of Gideon. His heart raced. This was working, just enough to gain a moment, but the alley was too small for both dragons to maneuver. One misstep and it could ignite disaster. Sparks from his torch hissed on metal scraps around them. A flick of the glowing dragon's tail sent a small pile of tools tumbling toward Gideon's feet. He caught a wrench instinctively, gripping it like a weapon, feeling the raw intensity of the moment. This wasn't just about scrap anymore. It was survival, understanding, and connection all at once. The shadow dragon lunged suddenly, claws scraping against a metal wall, sending a shower of sparks into the air. Gideon reacted instantly, swinging the wrench to deflect a stray strike. Pain shot up his arm, but the clang of metal on claw echoed through the alley like a warning. The glowing dragon roared, a sound vibrating in his chest, powerful and strange. The shadow dragon froze, startled by the unexpected burst of energy. Gideon seized the moment. He darted forward, dragging a pile of heavy scrap between himself and the second dragon. He pressed a small button on the stabilizer device, sending a pulse of light toward the shadow dragon. It staggered backward, eyes wide, retreating a step. The glowing dragon mirrored his action, moving protectively closer. Breathing hard, Gideon realized something profound. He wasn't just surviving. He was controlling the flow of the fight with intelligence, timing, and courage. The dragons might be stronger, bigger, faster, but his ingenuity gave him a chance. Then, unexpectedly, the glowing dragon nudged him toward a rusted crate tucked in the corner of the alley. Inside, Gideon found a small, sealed container glowing faintly, pulsing in rhythm with the dragon's chest. His curiosity spiked. Whatever this was, It seemed linked to the dragon's strange energy, maybe even the reason the shadow dragon had come. Before he could reach it, the second dragon hissed and lunged again, faster this time. Gideon leaped aside, heart pounding, and the crate slid across the floor, its glow spilling brighter. The glowing dragon spread its wings in a protective arc, shielding Gideon, chest pulsating with renewed energy. Gideon realized the stakes had just escalated far beyond scraps or survival. Something in that crate, something in the glowing dragon could change everything. And the shadow dragon wasn't backing down. He swallowed hard, gripping the stabilizer device and wrenched tightly. One decision, one wrong move, and it could all end in fire. The glowing dragon's hum grew louder, almost like a warning, almost like a plea. Gideon's mind raced. Could he calm the shadow dragon? Could he protect both of them? A sharp, metallic screech split the alley, this time from above. Something had landed silently on the rooftops, watching, waiting. Gideon's stomach dropped. The glowing dragon's eyes darted upward, then back to him. The energy pulsing through its chest flared brighter than ever. Gideon realized the night was far from over. Whatever these creatures were, whatever this glowing energy meant, it had already chosen him, and now he had to act or be destroyed. Micro cliffhanger, a figure drops from the rooftops, landing behind the shadow dragon. Both dragons freeze, and the alley fills with tension as Gideon realizes he is no longer facing just one threat, but an entire unknown force moving in the dark. Gideon's lungs burned as he crouched behind a stack of scrap, heart hammering. The figure that had dropped from the rooftops didn't move immediately, it just stood, tall, shadowed against the dim glow of the alley. The shadow dragon hissed nervously, wings trembling, while the glowing dragon's chest pulsed faster, almost like it was communicating through light. Gideon knew he had seconds to act. Every muscle in his body screamed fight or flight, but he was already too deep. Flight was impossible, the alley was too narrow, and the unknown figure could cut him off at any moment. He peeked around the scrap pile. The figure wasn't human. Its limbs were long, almost skeletal, and its skin shimmered faintly like polished metal. A mask, or perhaps a face, covered its features, with glowing blue eyes that scanned the alley carefully. It didn't make a sound, yet the air felt charged with its presence. What are you?" Gideon muttered under his breath. His voice was too loud. The figure's eyes snapped toward him. For a moment the alley felt frozen, as if time itself had stopped. Then the shadow dragon roared, breaking the tension, and the figure raised its arm. A thin beam of energy shot toward the dragon, but Gideon reacted instinctively. He kicked a metal barrel, which clanged loudly and deflected the beam just enough to miss the creature. Sparks flew, scattering across the alley like fireflies. The glowing dragon flared its wings, a burst of light shooting from its chest. The figure recoiled slightly, but Gideon noticed something unexpected. It didn't attack him. It was studying the glowing dragon, as if measuring its energy. Gideon's mind raced. He realized this figure wasn't a mindless predator, it was tracking something, and the glowing dragon was the key. He had to understand it before it was too late. He crept closer to the glowing dragon, keeping low. "Easy, easy," he whispered. He reached out, brushing a hand along its shimmering scales. The dragon's pulse quickened under his touch, not from fear but from recognition. He trusted him. That trust gave him courage. He tore his eyes toward the crate he had found earlier. The glowing container was still there, pulsing rhythmically in sync with the dragon's chest. A sudden realization hit him. The crate wasn't just important, it was connected to the dragon's life force. Whatever energy it held, the figure from above wanted it. Gideon's hands shook, but he had no choice. He grabbed the crate and placed it on top of the stabilizer device. Sparks jumped, wires hissed, and the light from the dragon's chest intensified, bathing the alley in blinding blue and gold. The figure moved faster than Gideon expected. It lunged toward the crate, energy crackling around its arms. But Gideon was ready. With the wrench still in his hand, he slammed it against a metal beam overhead, sending a shower of sparks and loose panels cascading toward the intruder. The figure flinched, momentarily distracted. That split second gave Gideon the opening he needed. He pressed the stabilizer device fully into the crate. A surge of energy shot out, streaming into the glowing dragon. The dragon's chest glowed brighter than ever before, almost painfully brilliant, and it let out a resonant roar that shook the alley walls. The figure staggered, stumbling back as the energy pulse seemed to repel it. Its glowing eyes narrowed, and for the first time, Gideon saw hesitation, a crack in what seemed like invincible confidence. The glowing dragon stepped forward, wings spread wide, chest pulsing in rhythmic waves. Gideon realized that he had just amplified the dragon's energy, not with force, but with clever understanding of its needs. His knowledge of circuits of energy flow had turned the tide. The shadow dragon growled low, uneasy, while the glowing dragon's light flickered toward it. Then unexpectedly the figure spoke, its voice metallic, cold, and almost melodic. "You shouldn't have done that, human." Gideon swallowed. "Maybe. But I couldn't let it die." His voice was steady, though adrenaline coursed through every vein. "I make things work. I fix what others break. That's what I do." The figure tilted its head as if evaluating him. Then it moved again, faster, aiming directly for the glowing dragon. Gideon's eyes widened. This was no longer about scraps or survival, it was a test. He had to act fast or risk losing the creature he had just saved. He grabbed another piece of scrap, wired it hastily to the stabilizer, and pressed it against the dragon's chest. The dragon roared, flaring light across the alley. The figure recoiled again, shielding its eyes. Gideon realized he had done more than protect the dragon. He had created a link between human ingenuity and alien power. The figure staggered back, then in a sudden twist, vanished in a blink. One moment it was there, arms raised, energy crackling. The next, only an echo remained. Gideon blinked, unsure if it had fled or something stranger had occurred. The glowing dragon lowered its wings slightly, chest still pulsing but calmer now. Gideon approached cautiously, heart still hammering. He reached out and touched its snout. The dragon hummed softly, almost like a sigh of relief. For the first time, Gideon felt a spark of understanding. This dragon, this energy, this unknown figure, it was all part of something far larger than the alley, far larger than himself. And somehow he had become a part of it. Then the crate in the stabilizer device pulsed again, stronger, brighter, and a faint holographic projection flickered into the air. Symbols Gideon couldn't read shimmered above the dragon, revealing what looked like coordinates, star maps, or perhaps a message from another world. Gideon stepped back, eyes wide. The glowing dragon nudged him gently toward the projection, as if urging him to see. Whatever this meant, it wasn't over. Far from it. Gideon's hands shook, but he didn't dare step back. The holographic projection from the crate shimmered above the glowing dragon, casting shifting blue and gold patterns across the alley. The symbols twisted into new shapes, pointing toward the rooftops and the city beyond, a silent invitation, or perhaps a warning. His mind raced. He had no idea what they meant, but one thing was clear. Whatever this energy was, it had drawn more attention. From the shadows, the second dragon circled again, wings beating like storm clouds, tail whipping against metal barrels. Its eyes glinted with a mix of hunger and wariness, but it wasn't alone. Other shapes moved in the darkness above the buildings. Figures like the one from before, silent and metallic, watching, waiting. They hadn't attacked yet, but Gideon could feel their intent like an invisible weight pressing down. He gritted his teeth. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't trained for battles with dragons or alien beings. But he was clever, fast-thinking, and stubborn enough to survive against odds nobody else would touch. His eyes flicked across the alley, noting every pile of scrap, every loose panel, every dangling wire. Improvisation was his weapon. The glowing dragon nudged him again, chest pulsing, wings raising slightly. Gideon understood. He had to protect it. Not just for its life but for the message it carried, the energy that could change everything. He grabbed a long metal beam, strapping it to his back like a makeshift staff. Sparks flew from the torch in his hand as he activated it, heating the tip until it glowed red. The first strike came almost immediately. A metallic figure dropped from the rooftop toward the shadow dragon, claws extended. Gideon swung the heated beam with precision, deflecting the attack and sending the figure staggering. Sparks and energy arcs danced across the alley. The glowing dragon roared, flaring light from its chest, and the shadow dragon leapt backward, startled. For a moment, Gideon saw that his quick thinking was giving them an edge. But the danger was escalating. More metallic figures dropped from the rooftops, landing with unnatural grace. The shadow dragon lunged repeatedly, and the glowing dragon had to maintain its protective stance, pulsing with energy that made the alley almost blinding. Gideon realized the fight wasn't just for survival anymore. It was about keeping the dragon alive long enough to unlock whatever secret the crate held. His mind raced for a plan. He spotted a pile of broken drones, still sparking faintly, wires dangling. If he could rig them as a distraction, launching them toward the metallic figures, it might give him and the dragon breathing room. His fingers worked furiously, connecting wires, taping energy cells, and positioning the drones toward the alley entrance. He leapt back as the first metallic figure recovered and lunged again. Sparks collided with scales as the glowing dragon moved to shield him. Then with a sharp hiss, Gideon activated the drones. They sputtered to life, buzzing like angry hornets, spinning toward the intruders with bright arcs of light. The figures stumbled, swatting and dodging, giving Gideon a chance to move closer to the crate. He pressed the stabilizer device firmly against the glowing container. The dragon's chest pulsed violently, sending a shockwave through the alley. The metallic intruders froze, energy arcs flickering, and then a sudden blinding pulse shot upward, scattering them to the rooftops. Sparks rained down, striking metal and concrete with sharp clatters. Gideon's heart pounded. He had done it, momentarily. But the glowing dragon trembled, wings trembling under the energy surge. He realized that stabilizing it wasn't enough. He had to merge its energy with the crate fully or risk losing it entirely. With a deep breath, he stepped closer, ignoring the pain in his arms and the fire of adrenaline in his veins. He pressed the stabilizer's core directly to the dragon's chest, letting the energy flow from the crate into its body. Light flared violently, almost blinding him, and he felt a shockwave lift him slightly off the ground. The dragon roared, a sound that shook the rooftops, and its wings spread wide, forcing back the shadow dragon and every metallic figure still in the alley. Gideon's ears rang, vision blurred, but he gritted his teeth and held firm. The crate pulsed in perfect rhythm with the dragon's heart. Sparks flew, metal twisted, and the alley became a storm of energy and light. The metallic figures hissed, recoiling, and then one by one retreated into the shadows, clearly overwhelmed. The glowing dragon's chest flared one last time, then dimmed slightly, settling into a steady, powerful glow. It nudged Gideon gently with its snout, wings folding and eyes softening. For the first time the alley felt safe. Gideon dropped to his knees, exhausted, sweat and soot covering his face, but alive. He looked at the crate. The holographic symbols had changed again. Now they shimmered into a map of stars and coordinates, pointing far beyond the city, toward unknown skies and worlds. His chest tightened. Whatever this energy was, whatever the dragon represented, it was bigger than anything he had ever imagined. And he had just survived the first real test of it. The glowing dragon let out a soft hum, almost like a sigh, and Gideon understood. They had won this fight, not through brute force but through courage, intelligence and quick thinking. Humans could shine even against impossible odds. Then, just as he was catching his breath, a new sound pierced the night. A deep, resonant vibration from above, unlike any dragon or machine he had ever heard. The rooftop shadows shifted as if something enormous was moving, waiting, watching. Gideon's heart skipped. The battle wasn't over. Whatever was coming next would be bigger, faster, and more dangerous. But he wasn't running. He never ran. He would face it. Because that was what humans did. They acted, they solved, and they survived against impossible odds. The ground shook beneath Gideon's feet as the massive shadow descended from the rooftops. Its eyes blazed red, casting the alley in an ominous glow. Every instinct screamed danger, but Gideon stood firm, wrench in one hand, stabilizer device in the other. The glowing dragon spread its wings wide, chest pulsing with steady, brilliant light, shielding him like a living fortress. The shadow paused, evaluating them. Its size dwarfed even the glowing dragon, claws scraping the walls of the alley, tail whipping dangerously. Gideon's breath caught. He had no weapons, no reinforcements, and nothing but his ingenuity and courage. Yet somehow he felt calm. The past nights, the scraps, the quick thinking, it all had led to this moment. He glanced at the crate still connected to the stabilizer. The symbols flickered, star maps shifting like waves in the night. Gideon realized these weren't just coordinates, they were instructions, a pattern. The glowing dragon leaned closer, nudging the crate as if urging him to act. The human mind, he reminded himself, had solved impossible machines before. Why not this? Gideon scanned the alley. Loose wires, metal scraps, panels hanging from the walls, all could be used. He picked up a long, hollow metal tube and fitted it to the stabilizer device like an extension. Sparks shot from the connection. The glowing dragon hummed in rhythm as if approving. Then, with a deep breath, Gideon activated it fully. A pulse of light shot out, wrapping around the dragon's chest. The crate's symbols flared, projecting a lattice of energy that connected both dragons in a shimmering network. The massive shadow hesitated, its red eyes flicking between Gideon and the dragon. The pulse strengthened and the glowing dragon stepped forward. Its light cut through the darkness like a blade, illuminating every corner of the alley. The shadow roared, a sound that shook metal and concrete. Gideon flinched but didn't move. He adjusted the stabilizer, directing the pulse precisely toward the energy source in the glowing dragon. Slowly, methodically, the pulse grew, weaving between him and the dragon like a controlled storm. The shadow faltered, its massive form trembling. It hissed, claws digging into the ground, then recoiled as if repelled by some invisible barrier. Gideon's heart raced. He realized the glowing dragon's energy wasn't just life, it was a shield, a weapon, and a message all at once. His clever improvisation, courage under pressure, and calm under fear had made the impossible possible. The shadow retreated to the rooftops, its massive form disappearing into darkness, leaving only distant echoes. For a moment, silence reigned. The alley was littered with sparks, twisted metal, and the faint hum of the stabilizer. The glowing dragon stepped toward Gideon, chest still pulsing rhythmically, eyes soft and almost grateful. Gideon sank to his knees, exhausted, sweat and grime covering his face, but a sense of awe filled him. He had survived, yes, but more than that, he had changed the outcome. He had turned a deadly encounter into a triumph. He reached out, brushing his hand along the dragon's shimmering scales. The dragon nudged him gently with its snout, then lowered its wings slightly, allowing him to approach the crate. The holographic symbol shifted one last time, forming a map that highlighted distant stars, routes, and patterns he couldn't fully understand. Yet he sensed the meaning. This was a path, a purpose, an adventure beyond the city, waiting for someone brave enough to follow. Gideon's mind raced. The glowing dragon wasn't just a creature in need of help, it was a messenger, a key to something far larger than either of them. He realized the true stakes weren't survival alone. It was human ingenuity, courage, and morality that had earned him a place in this new world. He had acted decisively, thought quickly, and risked everything for another life. That was what made humans shine. That was HFY in action. The shadow of a smile tugged at his lips as he looked at the dragon. "I guess leftovers weren't enough," he muttered. The dragon let out a soft hum, wings folding closer, eyes glimmering with intelligence. It was a quiet acknowledgement, a bond formed through trust, courage, and decisive action. The city lights flickered in the distance, and Gideon glanced at the rooftops, knowing the shadow dragon and its watchers might return. But he wasn't afraid anymore. He had faced the impossible, and prevailed, not through brute strength but through thought, skill, and empathy. Then, just as he exhaled, the crate's holographic projection shifted again, revealing a faint symbol at the edge of the star map, a distant world marked with unfamiliar glyphs. The glowing dragon hummed, nudging Gideon toward the direction the map indicated. His chest tightened with anticipation. Whatever lay beyond that world, whatever dangers or wonders awaited, it was calling to him. Gideon stood, feeling the weight of the night, the battles fought, and the bond formed. He glanced down the alley one last time. The city seemed calm now, but he knew it was just a prelude. Out there, beyond the familiar streets, a vast unknown waited, filled with energy, creatures, and challenges unlike anything humanity had faced before. And he, a simple mechanic, had just been given a place in it. The glowing dragon nudged the crate again, eyes locking on Gideon, chest pulsing like a heartbeat. He understood, the adventure was far from over. And somewhere, in the distance, another mystery stirred, waiting for someone brave enough to act. The faint hum of the holographic symbols grew louder, and a new, sharper pulse of energy shot from the crate into the sky. A silhouette appeared on the horizon, larger than any dragon, radiating light and power. Gideon's eyes widened. The night had only begun, and a far greater challenge was coming. Gideon clenched his fists, heart racing, a determined grin spreading across his face. Humans had faced the impossible tonight, and tomorrow they would rise to do it again.